Hey there, WellHouse Church. How we doing? I'm excited to be with you this morning. I hope that you're enjoying your time of fellowship and formation together. Why don't you go ahead and grab some more coffee, some food, and join me for our time of teaching. I will be honest, um, this teaching this morning is not easy for me. I talk about it again tomorrow on a closer look, but this is not an easy teaching for me because I'm a person who wants inclusivity. I'm a person who wants everyone to be included. I'm a person who wants wholeness, and I'm a person who wants unity. But I can remember being a kid, and my grandfather, for most of my life that I can remember, he always had chickens. And if you've ever been around chickens or done much work or research on chickens, you'll know that there's this thing called a sorter. For however it came about back in the day, when young chicks were born and hatched, there would be a sorter. They'd go into a big bin, and the sorter would pick them up, look, and decide if they were male or female. And they'd take them and they'd just make a declaration. Really, not really knowing how to tell, because most of the time, chicks, whether male or female, don't show any parts in order for which you to determine. It's just kind of something that's inherent to you. You know which pile they need to go in. And so whenever they would pick a new sorter to train, they would just have them start doing it, and someone go behind them and go, no, yes, yes, no. And then eventually they get it to where they're largely right. Just based off the feeling, just based off the experience, they could tell through the sorting process which one was male and which one was female. And sorting, by its very nature, separates people. It doesn't allow for unity, for all people to be the same. There's something different when you sort, when you divide people into categories. And for whatever reason, right, wrong, indifferent, this story was really hard for me because this is not the way I like to think about God. This is not the way I like to think about the world. And yet God himself has chosen to record this story in the scriptures. And Jesus himself spoke these words about the coming sorting. And this is what he said. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was thrown into the sea and caught fish of every kind. When it was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets, but threw out the bad. So it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come out and separate the evil from the righteous and throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is not the text that preachers desire to preach. This is not the story that I want to tell. But yet, Jesus himself tells this story, and so I have to do something with it. And Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like a net, a fishing net, and it's thrown out. And when it's thrown out into the body of water, it catches every kind of fish. Like it just catches a lot of different fish. Fish of every kind. So it's not an issue of race or socioeconomic or culture. Every fish of every kind is caught in this net. And I make that point because genders, ethnicities, races, and socioeconomic positions all have their own challenges. And those challenges can be unique to that category of people. I don't want to diminish that. But Jesus catches, or in this story, every kind of fish is caught. And yet, they don't segregate, or they don't divide based on the kind of fish. They divide it into the fish that are good and the fish that are bad, the fish that are worth keeping and the fish that are not. And so as I think about that, We can catch any kind of fish, any species, no matter how it looks. That's not the determining factor of whether it's good or bad. Jesus tells this story and he says, "So it will be at the end of the age, that the righteous and the evil will be separated." WellHouse Church, I'm telling you, whether I want to hear it or you want to hear it or anybody else wants to hear it, there's coming a day where there will be a sorting. We're not there yet, but there's coming a day where we will experience God's sorting, and God will go through each and every human being of every kind, and he will sort them based on those who are righteous and those who are evil. And there's nothing we can do about that. God will sort those, because God is a God of justice, and justice must be served at the final culmination when God is making all things new and all things right. A final justice must be enacted. I'll be honest, I don't really want to hear that. I wish God could just save everybody. That's not what his word says. His word says that there will be a sorting, and the sorting will happen between those who are righteous and those who are evil. In church, I got to tell you, righteousness doesn't come from anything you do. Righteousness is not about what you can do or work for. Righteousness is a gift that comes to you as a byproduct of our free gift of grace through Jesus Christ. Your righteousness is not your own. It's not self-righteousness. It's you being clothed in the righteousness of Jesus. And so I tell you all of this for two reasons. Number one, I want to ask you, how does it make you feel that God is a God of righteousness, and that righteousness exerts itself through a sorting, through a selection process? How do you feel about that? I'd love to know your thoughts. But then the other part is, if you're listening to this today, I want you to know that there are two destinies. A destiny of those who have experienced the righteousness and grace of God, and a destiny of those who have lived without it. And those ends are different. I'm not sure what hell looks like. I don't know all of what that is. That's for God to decide, not for me. But for me, I know this, that one ends with God's own experience of fellowship and grace and love with his people, and one exists without God's fellowship of grace and love. And I don't want to be on that side. The experience of the goodness and grace of God is far more than anything else I could ever want in this world. And so I'm going to choose the side of righteousness. And I imagine that most of you with me today, most of you watching, have chosen the side of righteousness. But my final question to you is, do you know anyone on the other side? My heart is broken as I read this text, because I know there are people on the other side. I know that there are people who will experience life without God. And that life is going to end in them perishing. And I don't want that. I don't want anyone to experience that. And so today, would you join me in praying for those people? Would you join me in sharing the gospel with those people? Would you join me in being an experience of the love of God to those people, so that they might come to a knowledge, a saving knowledge of the righteousness of God, so that that might not be their fate? Would you join me in being the people of God, so that the experience of God is known through us? Would you join me as we seek to be a place where all people, those who are evil, those who are separated from God, can be restored